Alright, this will be work in progress number 3 on the Alpha 3 Batman work in progress by Mark Dmello. So I'm outside here and I'm going to start spray painting some primer. First thing I'm going to do is the cape, and I'm outside because I'm going to use a rattle can to do this. It's just too big and awkward to spray in my spray room. You can see I have it here on a coat hanger, just so I can hold it. And what I'll do first, actually take it off the coat hanger and spray up underneath like the collar area, and then I'll put the coat hanger on and continue to spray. The primer I'm using for this is something I used in the past a lot, quite a bit actually, is the Krylon Max Gray Primer. I like this because it's inexpensive. It does a good job of covering. It's really not marketed as a sandable primer. It actually doesn't sand very good at all. Sorry, I got my hands full and I'm outside. So if you want a sandable primer, get like a Duplicolor or something, but I wanted something that will go on fairly quick, that will kind of hide all of this work that the factory's done. So yeah, so I'm gonna see if I can set my phone up somewhere out here and record me spraying this. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it. Hold on. Okay, I think you can see me right here. We'll check it out. Alright, so first thing you want to do is shake your can up real good. You'll make sure this is shaking up really, really good. And it's a little cold outside, so I'm going to do it real light. Another reason I like this is because it's got a fan tip on it, so it sprays a nice wide pattern. So first thing I'm going to do is spray up underneath the collar. Get the coat hanger out. First thing I'm going to do is spray up under here. And I'm putting on real light. Not trying to cover right now, just trying to get kind of a initial misting on. So as you can see, just a real light misting. I'm not really trying to cover anything right now. And I'll go ahead and spray the outside a little bit too, since I'm out here and I got this glove on. Again, just a real light. Not trying to cover, just trying to get a initial mist coat on. See a little schmutz there. I think I'm in camera. I don't know. I usually don't film outside. Okay, so that's the first coat. Real light. And with it being as chilly as it is out here, I'm going to let this dry for a few minutes. And I'll put a second coat on. I'll put the second coat on in about 5 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause and wait. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and put on another coat. Just a little wetter, but not real wet. And always make sure the can's shaken up. You want to make sure that the propellant, the primer, and the carriers all mixed together really well. You can get this stuff at Walmart. Get the Max. It covers better. I think it's like $3 a can. Again, doing the inside first, because it's the hardest area to get. Obviously, the hardest area to get to. Okay, so that's what the second coat is going to look like. You can still see it's not completely covered. We're just building it up slowly. Okay, so that's the second coat, and you can see that's still not 100% covered. I'll let this dry for 5 minutes or so and do a third coat. Alright, again about another 5 minutes, and we'll do a third coat. I'm always checking the nozzle because sometimes they like to get clogged up. I think I'm in. Now this time I'm going to try to do a little better job of making sure I cover everything. Putting on a little wet, not real wet. Krylon, if you put it on too wet, it'll take it forever to cure. It will eventually, but it'll kind of have like a rubbery feel to it for a while until it does. So you don't want to put it on real wet. That's why I'm building it up slowly. Couple mist coats. You want it's what we call in the painting world, it's called gassing out, and that means you're letting all the gases, like in the propellant, in the carrier, and all those things evaporate. So the primer's on the surface and not all the other chemicals. You want to let that gas out. You want to let each layer gas out, because if you don't, if you try to put it on too wet too fast, the underlying layers will continue trying to gas out, and they can't. So that will cause, it can cause cracks, it can cause bubbles, it can cause curing issues where it'll never actually cure. So you want to let everything gas out between layers. So that's why you want to wait 5-10 minutes between layers. And I can tell right now that this is looking pretty good. Okay, so this is the third coat, and you can see it's pretty much covered. There's a few little areas I can see through, but for the most part it's covered really well. I will continue to do that on the outside. You don't want to put it on dry. You don't want a pebbly feel to it because you'll have a lot of sanding to do to get that out. But you don't want to put it on too wet. With this fan tip, it does a real nice job of spraying it on smoothly. So any of these aerosol cans that you can get with a fan tip, you'll have a better application of whatever it is you're spraying, primer, paint. It atomizes the material better. Yeah, looking good. It's got a lot of folds and creases, so kind of have to hit it from every angle to make sure you get it in all the creases and the folds of the cape. All right, so that's the third coat, and again we're gonna let this dry for a little bit and we'll hit it again. All right, we're gonna do coat number 4, and this can is almost gone, so this will probably take me at least one full can to get this primed to the point where I'm happy with it for the first round. I may have to do some sanding on it, but I'll know that better tomorrow or tonight after this has had a chance to dry pretty good. And again, I'm putting it on, you know, not dry but not too wet. And it is a little chilly out here. It's like in the 60s, so I want to get this sprayed relatively quick and inside so it can start to dry better in the house where it's warmer. I may have to get another can actually. I'm almost out on this one. This was brand new when I started. That. I actually put this on the coat hanger. Now I can get the outside a little bit better. Hope I'm in frame, I'm not sure. So it looks like 4 coats is going to do it. As of now, I'm not seeing any trouble areas from what the factory did on the putty work. So I guess the sanding I did last night was pretty good, because I'm not seeing any obvious areas that need additional attention right now. Now that may change later when I sit down and really look at this after it's dried. We'll see. But the gray primer really shows up the sculpt nicely. Whatever that peach stuff is, that flesh tone stuff they use, it's pretty ugly. There you go. It's 4 coats of primer and it looks good. I'll show the rest. I'll spray inside in the paint booth and we'll show you that next. Alright, so now we're in the spray booth and I'm going to start priming all the other pieces. I don't have my mic in because I can't walk around with it plugged into the camera, but anyway. So I showed you using the Krylon outside. What I like to use, one of my new favorite primers, or new to me, is the Badger Stynylrez. This stuff is really good. It's a water-based acrylic polyurethane. So it's like really, polyurethane acrylics are very, very tough. This stuff works on plastic, resin, let's see, styrene, plastic, and vinyl. That's why it's called styrene res. Styrene for the styrene, like plastic. The NYL for vinyl, and res for resin. So it's like, it's your one-stop primer. The great thing about it is it comes in gray, comes in flesh tone, comes in matte black, gloss black, African American skin tone now, metallic. This is some olive green that I'll be using to prime the Hulk I'll be working on. So Ken has expanded the color line of the styrene res, which is great depending on what you're working on. For my airbrush for this, I like to use my Grex trigger just because it's got a big cup on it and I can spray pretty quick with it. As with most things, I spray everything at 20 psi. And just shake you gotta make sure your primer shakes up really good. For all these other parts, other than the base and Batman, I'll be using A-clamps to hold the pieces like this. You can see that's got primer on it from Spider-Man. Shake that up. Fill my cup up because I'll be doing quite a bit of priming. So I'll be going through quite a bit of primer. I'm going to turn my booth on. Give me 1 second. Make sure my airbrush is working properly. Alright, we ever have one of those days where shit just isn't working? This could be one of those days. I was trying to get my airbrush to work. I ended up dropping it, getting primer everywhere. And in turn, the Batman head fell over and the tip of the ear broke off. So now I get to fix that. So I'm not going to be priming the head right now because I have to putty that and fix it before I can prime it. It's not the end of the world. It's just like, shit. Sometimes shit just doesn't want to work properly. So I'm going to put that to the side for now. And I'm going to get one of the signs. Hopefully I don't break this thing. Alright, so this is the Ace Chemical sign. Again, A-clamp. Clamp it in, just like that. Styrene res primer, set to go. Got my PSI at 20. And that's what we're just gonna give this a real nice coat of primer. Use the whole thing inside and out. I'm actually going to crank my PSI up a little bit. There we go. The airbrush is up. There we go. I wasn't want to spray really good. The sign's got a lot of texture in it, so I gotta spray it from all angles to make sure I get the primer everywhere. And this primer I put on pretty liberally. I put it on pretty wet. If you have never used this before and you first spray it, it seems a little thick. You can thin it with distilled water. I never have. But I know when you first ever spray the styrene res, you're like, man, that's really thick. But once it's dry, it is baby smooth. It's really good stuff. The first time I sprayed it, I was like, ew, I'm not sure I really like this. But the more I use it, the more I liked it. So, if you're a builder painter and you haven't tried it, I highly suggest giving it a shot. And put more primer in. And I haven't put the magnets in yet. I'll do that probably tomorrow. Actually, I don't think I have any magnets on hand, at least the size I want. Now I've got a few little, I'm not sure if I'll show up in camera. Just want to get this to focus on the side. Little bubbles right there. See, I got to fill that now. I didn't see that earlier. The bubble there, I got to fill bubbles in the resin. So the primer does, it shows you all the areas that need work. All right, so that sign looks good. It's got a nice coat of primer on it. See a few little areas that I may need to sand a little bit. But I got to fix those bubbles. All right, I'm going to get another sign. Got the Gotham City sign, or the cityscape sign. Do the same thing, prime that up. And the Stynylrez primer, it's not labeled like a sandable primer, and Ken Batter isn't marketed as a sandable primer, but it does sand really, really nice. So I won't say you can use it as a filler primer, but if you needed to do some final sanding, it sands beautifully. That. And I've got blocks of foam everywhere in my work area because I stick the parts in the blocks of foam to dry. So I have a block of white foam over here on one of my little counters. Gotham sign. No, you're good. Primer makes it look really good. Okay, now so for the hands, there's no place to clamp. But I'm going to try to use the magnet to hold it on a stick. Let's see if it's strong enough. Yeah. So basically I have like 1,000 skewers with different size of clips on them. This is, you know, a bigger clip. But the magnet is strong enough that I'll hold that in place. So that's what we're going to use. Now on these parts, I don't want to put this primer on too wet, so I don't want to fill in all this nice detail that's sculpted into the texture of the suit. So this I'm just going to put on until it covers and then be done. But this primer does shrink up nicely into any detail that you paint over. So this I'm just kind of making sure I cover everything, so I get the same tone everywhere. And there you go. That's done. Actually, now I get over here, I see some light areas. I thought it was done. And then we got the grappling gun. Hopefully this will hold it. It's got the extra weight of the grappling gun. We'll see. I think what we're going to do is I'm going to, just to be safe, I'm going to hold it first, and then worry about putting on a skewer and getting the rest of it. Again, just making sure I get every little nook and cranny. So the bottle, the Stynylrez primer on the bottle says you can spray this and wait 8 minutes and it's ready to paint. I like to wait a little bit longer personally. You know, I don't wait on this stuff. I don't wait all day, but I like to let it sit for a couple hours, give it a good chance to really dry. I wouldn't mask anything till the next day though. So like it's rare that I paint and mask in the same day. I know a lot of guys use just primarily silly putty and they don't like to use tape. I use a combination of the two. But as far as masking tape, I don't mask until the next day, because you'll either pull up paint or you'll leave track marks in the paint from the tape. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to spray this inside part. That, and then I'm going to put it on the stick, because if you notice the last one was kind of flopping around a little bit. Well, this wants to do the same thing, but it's got a lot more weight on it because of the grappling gun, so I don't want it to flop around really. I'm going to go real slow, moving around real slow. Sorry if I get out of camera a little bit. So in my last video, I mentioned that the resin was kind of really hard. So, you know, I chipped the Batman ear a little bit. If the resin wasn't as brittle, because it barely, like, it fell over like this much. It was like on its side and it fell like, you know, just a fraction of an inch, but it was enough to cause that tip to break off. If the resin wasn't quite as brittle, it wouldn't have done that. I don't think. It could have. But I like this material that they make these kits out. It's nice and heavy. It takes detail very well. So, you know, all these sculpts look really good. And here's the third hand. Some more primer. I'm going to have to find like a bigger spray room or paint room or something, man, because these pieces that I'm doing are getting bigger and bigger, and my paint room can't handle all of it. I may have to set something up in the garage. Like Vinceville Customs, he has his paint booth is basically a big kind of like a table just lined with, I think it's just cardboard, and he uses kind of like box stands to get all the stuff outside. The only problem with that is that you're kind of limited to when you can paint, because if it's too cold, you'll have curing problems, and if it's too hot, it'll cure too fast. So you have to find that nice kind of middle ground between temperatures when you're painting. Alright, that's looking really good. So that hand's done. Maybe not. Gotta get in between the knuckles a little bit. Between the fingers. Okay. So I'll start putting paint on this. Today's Wednesday. November the 29th, and I'll start putting paint on this weekend once Mark sends me some color references. Right. The last piece before Batman and the base, and I'm just going to set it down here on this turntable I have in here. First I'm going to spray the back side. Going nice and even, make sure I get a nice coverage. I'm not trying to do any filling or anything. This is simply just to give everything a uniform base, so the paint has a nice surface to adhere to. That's all primer is for, really, unless you're doing filling priming where you're filling scratches. With this kind of primer, it's simply to give the paint a good surface to stick to. So you gotta make sure it's nice and smooth and you have even coverage. Okay. No biggie. So this thing's too heavy to put on a clamp, so I'm just gonna set it over here on the counter. So now all I have to do is the base and Batman, and then I'll go fix that chip on the ear and get that primed. So here's the base. This is going to take a lot of primer, a lot of texture in it. To fill. So again, I'm going to just spray the bottom first. I probably would have normally done this with the Krylon outside, but I really like the Styrol Res. This is going to take a lot of primer. And right now, I don't have a sticker, so I'm like 99.99% sure that everything comes with a sticker, because everything that Mark has put out so far has a sticker for the bottom, or one of those cards, you know, authenticity cards. And even though I just sprayed that, I'll spray it again later. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw it down here. I'm not worried about messing up that bottom primer. So Batman, I may have to take outside because he's not going to fit in my booth on the base. Like, you guys can't even see what I'm doing. Spraying the top first. I think what I'm going to have to do when I do Batman is I'm going to have to hold them by my hand. I mentioned I was going to put them on the base and spray them, but I think what I'm going to do is hold them by my hands on the feet, spray everything on the top side, like his torso and arms and everything. Put them on this base to let that part dry, and then pick them up and hold them by the feet to do the other part of them. Actually still some a little bit of water in there from last night. I'm also going to invest in myself into a large gravity feed gun. I think I mentioned it several times before, but I used to paint cars for a living. So I used to own all sorts of professional spray guns. I no longer have those because I don't paint cars anymore. But I'm going to go get myself a decent, not a big one, nothing that holds a quart of paint, but like they make what's called a touch-up gun. It's basically a large version of this, a small version of a big professional gun. Get these undercuts really good. Get all the undercuts. Not sure if you can see what I'm doing. Probably not. Awesome camera work for me as always. Nothing but the best. Gun is getting clogged a little bit. This is being brick, you gotta spray from all angles to get all the areas between the mortar and everything. A lot of texture, you gotta spray from all angles. Man, it really brings out the sculpt. Alright, so I'm going to pause the video because you don't need to watch me spray primer for the next 30 minutes and I'll come back. Alright, so the base is Ah, freaking. Okay, so the base is all primed. Looks really good. You can see it's still a little wet. So I'm going to pull this out of the booth and then go get Batman. I'll put the base out on the table that I was working on so I can put the Batman on top once he's done priming. Alright, Batman. This guy's freaking heavy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray the top part. I'm going to hold him by his leg. Go put him on the base, let him dry for a while, and then I can come back and hold him by the top part. Again, he's got a lot of great texture sculpted into his outfit, so I'm not trying to fill anything with the primer. I just want to cover it, cover the piece. As a kit builder, it would have been great if they would have broken up the piece a little more. Maybe similar to Captain America, if they would have broken off the arm at the shoulder joint and then the legs at the hip. Just from a kit builder's perspective, that would be much easier to handle and paint. So. That's heavy. It also make masking easier. Again, I'm going to have to spray from every angle because of all the texture and the muscles and everything. And make sure you get a nice even coverage of the primer so you have consistent undercolor for the paint. Just when I think I have an area covered, I look at it from a different angle and I see bare spots. Give my arm a rest a second. Arm that I'm holding him, but he's looking good. You see the primer really brings out the texture and the nice sculpt that we got going on here. It'd be great if the Stano res was offered in this spray can. Man, that'd be great. Okay. And sometimes I don't know if I'm on camera or not. My gun's getting a little clogged up. Give me a second. I'm not going to prime the bottom of the feet yet because with the base being freshly sprayed and this being freshly sprayed, I don't want those to I don't want the primer getting stuck to each other to itself. I'm going to do everything but the left leg. That's what I'm holding on to right now. So I'm going to pause and come back. Alright, so I figured it's a good opportunity to show you how to fix something like this lovely ear that I managed to chip off. Unfortunately, my bad. Things were going very smoothly early. So it's not the end of the world. You know, sometimes you get the stuff and it shows up damaged, or you drop something like I did. You need to fix it. So this was actually relatively easy. I'm going to find a 3M fine sanding sponge. And I'm removing this factory fleshy tone, whatever this stuff is. Okay, because I need bare resin. Okay, so I got bare resin. Got some medium gap filling CA, also known as super glue, and I have in here I have some talcum powder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself my own little like not resin, but basically a putty. So get myself some of this. Let me get some of the super glue, and I'm gonna mix up more than I need. The talcum powder will make the super glue dry faster. So basically, I'm gonna put a nice glop there, and I'm gonna take some of the talcum powder, which is right here, baby powder, talcum powder, whatever, same thing, and I'm gonna put some of that on my little palette here. I'm going to mix this up. Basically, the talcum powder is turning the super glue into a putty that will dry fast and hard and will adhere very well to the resin. I may have to do this twice depending on how this works the first time. So it's going to be messy at first. So I got like this little putty consistency. I'm just going to put it on here kind of. I'm not going to worry about being real neat. I'm actually going to kind of, and this is starting to dry already. The talcum powder has a property that makes the super glue dry pretty fast. So I'm actually just building it up here on the ear where it broke off. I'm going to use gravity to my advantage and let it kind of pull that down. I'm just working it here, just kind of shaping it a little bit. As you can see, it's kind of shaping just naturally, just from the gravity that I'm using here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry. I'm actually going to build it up a little bit more. I want more than needed because I'm going to sand it down. Okay, we're getting there. So just kind of working it, trying to get close to the shape that I need. I have to build it up a little bit. Okay. So we're just going to leave that like that for now. And then we're going to do this again. But already it's almost to the shape I need. Sorry, it's not on camera. So you can see this kind of already shaped how I need it. All right. So we're going to let it sit for a second. I'm going to mix up a little more and do it again. This time it's a little thicker. More talcum powder, less glue. But this is a good way to make a repair like this, because it sticks really good and it's hard. Just kind of sculpting it a little bit. Alright, almost there. I'm going to do it one more time. Like I said, I want to have more on there than needed, so I can have room to sand it down. Oops. Again, it's kind of a thick consistency. And then from here, once this dries, I'll be able to sand it down and get it to the shape I need. So yeah, as I tell people, I mess up all the time. It's just not freaking out too bad and just taking the time to fix it. All right, so we're gonna let that dry. Nice and hard. All right, so right now that's how it looks. So I'm going to pause, and when it dries, I'll come back and sand it down. All right, so it only took about 3 or 4 minutes for this to dry, hard enough to sand. So there it is. Not real pretty, but we're going to sand it down and get it to be the same shape as the other one. And then I can prime this head. So yeah, it's a bummer that I did that and it was stupid, but in the end it's not that big of a deal really. I'm using a pretty coarse sanding stick right now for the initial sanding to get the shape, and then I'll go back in with a finer grit sanding sponge and smooth it out a little bit. And I am supporting the backside with my hand here, just so I don't put an unnecessary pressure on that repair. Because once this dries, it's pretty hard. It's one reason I like that method. And I also use that method a lot of times when I'm installing magnets. If I don't want to see the magnets, I'll put the magnet in and recess it a little bit, and I'll make that the same putty mixture and fill over the magnet with it. It does two things: it hides the magnet and also makes sure that magnet will never ever come out. So this video, I actually had planned just showing priming, but I'm actually going to show priming. I've shown a little repair, how to do a repair, and I did go get the magnets I need today, so I'll show you how I do the magnets for one of the signs, and then that'll be it for this work in progress. Because after the head's primed, he's all primed. And from what I haven't inspected him real closely yet, see a few little spots on the cape I'll need to probably do a little more sanding and then reprime, but that's not that big of a deal. Okay, so we're just getting the shape. The very last thing I'm going to do is get the point. Right now I want to kind of get the thickness of it. Actually, it looks like the factory's primed this guy twice. At this, I've got the white's bare resin, and there's gray, and then there's that pink stuff, so that's interesting. Kind of get a sneak peek on how they prep their stuff. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so if I look at the back, you can see that the thickness is about right. And from the front, thickness is about right. So now I need to shape the tip, which means I need to come this way. And I don't want to sand against the ear this way. I'll chip that out. So I'm going to sand this way. I'm just gonna go real slow on this part. Actually, I might have to sand this way a little bit. I'm just gonna do real light. We're almost there. So, not too bad. You know, that repair took me 15-20 minutes to do. Not the end of the world. Just kind of knowing how to do it when you mess up like that, how to fix it. Yeah, it's looking good. And as long as it looks like it was never broken when I'm done, that's all that matters. So there you go. New ear tip. From the front, looks good. From the side, you can even see the profile matches. And from the back. So I'm going to prime him up, and then I'll show you the statue all primed. Alright, so also part of this video, I'm going to show you how I install magnets. I got everything primed. The head, I just primed the head. It's drying right now, but while it dries, I can show you how to do magnets. When the production pieces are released, they'll have magnets installed in the signs. Mine doesn't because it's a prototype. And also for the eagle head, there'll be magnets. It's relatively simple. Again, a lot of things aren't really that hard. You're going to need a drill bits. I used blue tack, excuse me, also some sort of punch or marking tool. So the magnets I'm going to be using are relatively strong. They're 1/2 inch. Magnets, especially for the eagle head with how heavy it is. It needs a nice heavy duty magnet. For the signs, I'm using it's a 1/2 inch, but it's not as thick, so they're not quite as powerful, but they're strong enough to hold the signs in place. And they have a little hole, and these are a little bit less expensive. The 1/2 inch are expensive. 8 magnets is $17, so you know, it's like $2 a magnet. Or no, it's like yeah, there's 8 in here, so it's after tax is $2.50 a magnet, so not the cheapest thing. So the first thing I do is I drill a hole in. No, sorry. First thing I do is I drill a hole in the sign, and 1 second. A lot of times I don't do this step, but since I'm showing you, I'll show you the correct way. You need a straight edge of some sort, because you're going to want to get the magnet, at least on this application, you're going to want to get the magnet centered in the piece that you're adding magnets to. Now this base seems to be hollow casted, so we'll see how far I can drill into it. So I got my sign here. Zoom in a little bit. I'm working on a towel so I don't scratch up all the primer. This is the Gotham City sign. Got a straight edge. Now I'm just going to mark the center of this key. Pretty simple. I'm just going to go from corner to corner. Just scribe it like that. This doesn't have to be exactly perfect centered. So there's roughly the center. And since these are 1/2 inch magnets, I'm not going to start off with a 1/2 inch drill bit for 2 reasons. First of all, it's way too big. You'll try to churn out way too much material one time, and this material will crack. So I start small and I work my way up. So basically I'm going to start with like a 3/16. Actually I'm going to start smaller because I want to show you another thing I do. So the first one I'm starting out with is like a 1/8. Or no, it's like a 3/32 drill bit, relatively small. And I'm just going to drill into here. Just like that, okay? So now before I do anything else, I'm going to use this hole to locate the magnet in the base, to get my location in the base. So you're going to need whatever it is you're adding a magnet to. In this case is the base. Right here. And Gotham City goes on the bottom like that. This is where the blue tack comes in handy. Get yourself some blue tack like this. If you're not familiar with this, if you knead it up or stretch it and work it, it gets kind of sticky. Stick that in down here and kind of flatten it out a little bit. And I'm going to take the sign. And you have to have enough blue tack in there so you can push whatever it is down into the blue tack. You're going to push it in. And now if you can see, right there where my finger is, there's a little peg of blue tack. I'm going to flatten it out and show you again. You don't have to push it down all the way, just enough to get a spot on the blue tack. Just like that. So I zoom in. You can see the little spot right there. That shows me where my hole's got to go. And then you take your punching tool, your marking tool, right here, and you're just going to go right on top of that and give yourself a mark. Just like that. And when you pull up the blue tack, you've got the location of your magnet. Let's see if you guys can see that. It's right there. So now, your hole should line up, or your magnet should line up. So I'm going to go ahead and drill this hole too, since I got this drill bit in here. I'm going to work each drill bit. Okay, so I went through already, so it's not that thick. So we'll see how far in I can go. Okay, now I'm just going to work my way up. I got like a 3/16 drill bit. I'm going to drill my hole into the sign. And this is a messy process. You're going to get dust everywhere. So down here, you hear that sound it's making? It's because of the material. It's that type of resin. So this is a slow process because you work your way up slowly through the different drill bit sizes. I'm not pushing real hard on the drill bit, or on the drill. I'm letting the drill bit do the work. Up to the next size. Again, we're just going up a little bit at a time. So once I get these installed, check all the surfaces for any defects, and if I have anything to fix, like on the head, I noticed there's from the factory there's some little spots that need a little sanding. Once that's all done and everything's got the final primer on it, I'll give this stuff another bath in that same way I did the other night with the. I'll give it a good scrubbing with some warm water and some soap just to get everything off. Working our way up, now up to 1/4 of an inch. It'd be awesome if I owned a drill press, but I don't. Five 5/16. I'm just going to show you one, and then I'll do the rest, and then by the time I'm done I can put everything together and show it to you. 3/8. This video is going to be long as it is, so. Once you get up to 3/8 and 1/2 inch, it's taking a lot of material out, so just go slow. Don't drill a hole through your hand like I did on the first Punisher I did. Okay, and now we're up to 1/2 inch. I wish there was another drill bit between 3/8 and 1/2 inch. It's quite a big jump when you're doing this. It'd be nice if there's one more like step up. So I'm just gonna go. I just go real slow. Let the drill bit do the work. I'm just putting a little bit of pressure on it, not much. Okay, so there's that hole. I'm going to vacuum this all off. Excuse the noise. Actually, drill this hole a little bit more. Where'd that drill bit go? There it is. Now, since this is hollow, I gotta be careful that I don't lose a magnet. Whoops! I gotta be careful I don't lose a magnet in the base, because then it's just gonna rattle around in there, and I've lost a nice magnet. So I have to think about this for a second because I've never done this with a hollow base before. So I think my best bet is it's a snug fit right now. So I think I'm gonna do, let me get one more tool, 1 second. Okay, the other tool I want to get is some Vaseline or petroleum jelly and some Q-tips, because what I'm going to do, I don't want to glue things together that aren't supposed to be glued together. So, right now if I put one of these guys in here, it's a really snug fit. So, sometimes I have to think about this for a second, how I want to do stuff. I don't need, I think what I'm going to do is I've already got that one kind of in there. So you just kind of took these and I just kind of pushed one down into the sign. Like that. So that magnet's in there. And it's not going to come out, but I'm going to go ahead and throw some glue on it just to be safe. The trick is to try to get them in there straight. That's a hard thing sometimes. Actually tap it down a little bit. I wish I had a wooden mallet or a rubber mallet. Okay, so there we go. So I tapped that one down in there a little bit. So now I got this other one right here, right there. That's going to be the one that's going to kind of hold it together. So I'm going to do, I'm going to put petroleum jelly on this, and then put glue here and put it in there, and it should work. We'll see. So what I don't want is I don't want these magnets being glued together. So put petroleum jelly on this half, just like this. So like that, and now I can put a magnet on there, and when I glue it won't get stuck. I'll put some glue in the hole here. Like so, and then that should line up. Maybe. Actually, what I'm going to do. Okay, so I've decided to do, you get to watch me experiment. So I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to use a stack of magnets kind of as my tool. I'm going to put some jelly on this side, petroleum jelly, like that. So this is the magnet right here that I'm going to glue in. So, I mentioned I don't want to push it through the hole. There we go. Okay. So now it's in there. And I just used this stack as a tool to kind of push it in there. And I'm just going to wipe off the excess petroleum jelly. These will all get washed again, like I mentioned. People say, well, why don't you put the magnets in first? Well, I know. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. This time around, I just decided I want to get it in primer as soon as I could to see if there's any work that needs to be done and all that stuff. So, that's kind of why I did it this way. Okay, so now, it's magnetized in. Perfect. So just like that. So I got I got 3 more to do, and then all the magnets are in. So when I'm done with that, I'll come back and show you the statue I'll put together. Alright, so magnets have been installed and everything's been primed. So let's put them together and see what it looks like. I got the eagle head in there. So the eagle head, I used larger magnets. I used half inch by 1/4 inch thick. I have actually 2 in the head and then 1 in the base. So this guy's heavy. So fits in just like that. Nice and snug. We got Cityscape, Gotham City, and Acme. So those all fit in there very nicely now. And let's get Batman on there. I got a little more work to do. I see some areas where I need a little more primer. I also see a couple areas that need a little more sanding, but nothing major. So maybe one more short evening of prep work. So I will tell you one thing, that I kind of wish the base was solid, because with just Batman on there, it's a little heavy. It kind of wants to fall forward a little bit until you get the cape on. So it doesn't fall over, but it feels like it's a little heavy going that way. So next we're going to do the whole cape and hand trick here. Now you notice the primer is 2 different colors, because remember earlier we did the cape and Krylon. It's a slightly darker primer. I will sand the cape one more time. I found a couple areas as the primer dried that needs a little more work, and then I'll do a final primer in the Stano-Res. Remember, you come from the side here, kind of rotate it into place. Like that. And once it's on, you kind of shift it to adjust. Come on. I did this so easily yesterday. And my method is not working now. There we go. Alright, so there's that. I'm going to put the grappling gun hand in. And then the head. And there you go. All primed. Ready for a little more sanding. The cape looks actually, where the factory did all their work, actually looks really good. I was quite impressed that none of that came through. But yeah, he looks sharp now. In primer. So I know this is a really long video, but you know, if you watch it, if you take the time to watch it, you'll maybe learn a few things and kind of get a sense of the process. And then of course we have the one switch out, which is the closed fist, which will hold the batarang. But that's it. So first round of primer and magnets installed. Like I said, I'll do a little sanding on a few spots, and then one last round of primer, and he'll get a nice bath in warm soapy water, and he'll be ready for paint. So if you watch this, thanks for sticking with me. I know it's a long video. I appreciate it, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks.